The renowned poet and activist Don Mattera has passed away at the age of 86.
Mattera was an activist in the 1950s when black, coloured and Indian people were relocated from Johannesburg as part of the apartheid government's Group Areas Act.
He subsequently wrote award-winning pieces of literature and was a journalist at the Sunday Times, the Weekly Mail, now the Mail and Guardian, as well as the Sowetan.
He'll be buried in accordance with Muslim rites. Well, let's just get you more on the life and times of this renowned poet, very much loved by South Africans, chairperson of the Don Mattera Legacy Foundation, Jenny Jaftha. Jenny, good evening to you. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us, and condolences on the loss of Mr. Mattera. How are you and everybody else at the foundation doing tonight?
Good evening, Cathy. Thank you very much. Your condolences are embraced. Yes, it's a sad day for us as a foundation, but also for the Mattera family. And the board of the foundation extends condolences to the Mattera family. He was a father, he was a grandfather, he was a brother, sister, he was a brother and uncle. And to many, he was a mentor in so many respects, both as a journalist, as a writer, an activist, and it is a sad loss for us.
I want us to get into his work in a moment, but we know that he will be buried in line with Muslim cultural rites. Let's talk about what that means, particularly for today.
Well, Don, this was his wishes. And so we were fortunate enough just a few weeks ago to really establish what he desired on this particular day. And we were blessed to be able to actually get the support of Don, his family and his partner in terms of ensuring that we adhere to his religious beliefs and principles, and that we then ensure that he's laid to rest on the basis of these religious beliefs and principles. And so he will be buried this evening at the Lenasia Avalon Cemetery. And it speaks volumes of Don's commitment to a decision he made a while ago in terms of his adherence to the Muslim faith.
In many ways, Ndade Mattera was one of the people that had really come to understand different aspects of South African life for different cultures, for different races, and he made that come alive in his artistry.
That's right, yes. And what he believed and what he espoused and what he embraced was reflected in his writings. It was reflected in his poetry. It was reflected in the values that he espoused, values of compassion. Don was a humanitarian, and in his humanitarian perspective of life, Don embraced all religions. Don embraced all cultures. Don embraced all peoples. But at the heart of who Don was, Don's heart was really concerned about the youth and the children of this world and our society. And so he wept bitterly at times. We would at times just sit and chat to him. But inevitably, there was a moment of reflection about the children of this world and what would happen to the children of this world and where they would be going to. Given all the atrocities that are committed against children. And his heart really bled for the children of South Africa. And so earlier this year, we hosted the inaugural Don Mattera annual lecture. And that lecture was focused on the child and our vision for the child in 2030. And it really embraced the principles and the tenets that he stood for, in terms of valuing humanity, valuing children, valuing life, enabling children to live to their fullest. And that's part of what we really want to embrace and entrench in the legacy work that we do in this foundation.
The fact that your foundation was launched in El Dorado Park also speaks to a commitment there for him to stay in touch with communities that he has contributed to, that have been part of his own upbringing.
Yes, that's right. So at the heart of what we do is the community. And so Don's legacy in his communities, and we don't only talk about one community, we talk about communities that have felt the impact or been impacted by the work that Don has done. And this is in various forms. This impact is in various forms. And so you will see as we go along in terms of making sure that the legacy work of the foundation continues, it will always find its roots in the community to ensure that to a large degree the communities that he really comes from and hails from, the communities he has given so much to, is able to now benefit from the rich legacy that he leaves, both in terms of not only the art form, but in terms of sports, in terms of activism, in terms of political consciousness. And so that work is always going to be entrenched and find its roots in the communities. And so that's really what we aim to do as we go along.
He was somebody who had received a number of accolades within this country from the government and different institutions. For those people who might be from different generations, who might not be very familiar with his work, what would you say to them today in terms of his loss and what it is that they have to be intentional about trying to find out about him?
Yeah, I think that's very important, because the legacy work that we do is not only about the institutional work that we do, but it's really about ensuring that part of what he stood for, which is the value of compassion, the value of care, the value of embracing humanity, that lives on in all of our lives. And so Don would have wanted to see that we live those values, that we emulate those values that really enable people, human beings, children, to live their full potential. I think the second thing would be that Don was obsessive about writing, about reading, about encouraging reading and encouraging writing. And so to ensure that we engender a love and a passion for writing and for reading. And one of the things that we really want to do is to honor him through the publishing of a number of unpublished works over the next few years. We are in the process of doing that with some of his works. And despite Don's illness, Don continued to write. Don continued to express himself through his poetry. And so what we'd like to really urge and really ask those who really love Don and who are sad about his passing today is to continue to embrace that legacy, that richness in terms of reading, the literary works, art, music, sports, community activism, and to always stand up for their principles and what they believe is right, because Don would not have wanted it any other way.
Jenny Jaftha, she is with the Don Mattera Legacy Foundation. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. And as you heard there, he will be laid to rest later tonight in a ceremony with close friends and family.